Joining me now is Jamie Whitfield, who is, among other things, my assistant, but she's also a recovering drug addict. And, you know, I always hate saying that because it just sounds like such a negative thing to say, but you're recovered.
I'm delivered.
You're delivered.
Yes.
Good word.
The disease of addiction.
And, you know, last week we talked about step one of the process of being delivered. And step one was?
Admitting that we were powerless over our drugs and alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable.
And you can talk louder than that, I know.
And so step two is we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us back to sanity.
Okay.
And so basically what that means to me is, you know, the one thing that is insane about addiction is the obsession of being, you know, chasing that drug or trying to get that drink. And so believing in a power that's greater than yourself to restore you back to sanity is just believing in a power that you can believe in, that you can just ask that power, where are you going to take me? Lead the way. You know, and for me, God is my higher power, and so I just allowed, instead of it being my will, because my will is what got me where I'm at. And so for me, I just ask, you know, my higher power to, you know, guide me, take my hand. You know, I'm no longer in charge of my life. I've allowed, you know, him to have total charge of my life now, and he has like just manifested beautiful things in my life, you know, and is guiding me and preparing me for things that I don't even have a clue that he's preparing me for. And I just allowed it to be his will and not my own will anymore.
Well, and I think it's such a wonderful thing that you're so willing to share your story and to share your experiences with other people who might really need to hear this message right now.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that we are reaching people and that, you know, they are getting the message. And you know, you always, when you're going through something like that, when you're trying to recover, you do need support. You do need help and support from your friends, your family, anybody really.
Right.
And so, have you been able to garner that support?
Yes, daily. Through the NA fellowship and Zoom is a wonderful thing. It offers 24-hour marathon meetings. You know, you can just click on there anytime and just be amongst people that are the same. We're not unique individuals. We're all the same. You know, we all have the same story, and that's addiction. And so I find my support through the NA fellowship. I have a wonderful sponsor that I reach out to, you know, 2 or 3 times a day sometimes, you know, just for that support. And sometimes it's just, hey, how you doing? And I'm doing okay today, but I just needed to hear your voice just to, you know, just to know that somebody's out there that cares, you know, and that understands. And I have wonderful family support that, you know, just every day, you know, I'm like, I'm 220 days clean, and everybody's rooting, you know, for you and by your side, you know, and that's important, you know. But for, you know, for the foremost, you have to just be rooting for yourself, you know, because at the end of the day, if I don't continue my journey of being, you know, to stay in deliverance from my disease from addiction, I won't have anything else. You know, I've said that before, like, you know, in my life, if I do not stay clean, I lose everything. My children, myself, you know, my mom, everything, you know, nothing else matters except for staying delivered from my disease of addiction. And every day I pray that, you know, I have that, you know, strength to just have another 24 hours under my belt.
Well, and I know if you've got a meeting going on, if I listen in your office and I can tell you've got a meeting on your computer, I leave you alone because I'm thinking, okay, she's in a meeting, she needs this, leave her alone. But, you know, but it's true because there are so many different dynamics that go on. Your relationships with your family, with your friends, with your old friends that you've had to give up.
Yes.
And, you know, there's just a lot going on, and it's, I would imagine, extremely stressful.
It is at times, and it does get better with time, but if you just surrender to the fact that you are powerless, and they teach you, like in treatment, they teach you to, the old people, places, and things, you have to let that go, and you have to find a new way of living, and a new way of thinking. That's what addiction is about. It's that cognitive thought process of, before, when I was using, that was my instant gratification to get rid of them problems and them feelings that I didn't want to deal with. But now the program teaches you that they promise you one thing, they promise you freedom. Freedom from the process of wanting to fill them voids with drugs, and they tell you keep coming back, because if you do, it's you start applying things in your life that you hear from your meetings and working your steps to your everyday life. And so it is trying, and you have to just you have to want that new way of life and
Right.
new way of living, because if you don't have that desire to have that, and that willingness and that open-mindedness to have that,
It's too hard.
it's too much. You'll set yourself up for failure. So you just have to have that. It's not a lot, just that one desire, and that's all that we ask for, that the NA program asks for, membership, is the desire to stop. It doesn't mean you have to be clean that day, that moment you log into that meeting, just to have that desire within. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, because when you log into a meeting, you are going to get a lot of support.
Yes.
And particularly if you are vocal enough to tell people,
Yes.
hey, I need help.
Yes.
And that's the big thing,
Yes.
asking for help.
Yes, and just being honest. It's all about having, working an honest program. Because if you're not honest with yourself, no one else can help you. If you're still sitting there in denial that, oh, well, maybe I don't really have a problem, you have to surrender to that fact, and you have to admit that you are powerless over drugs and alcohol, and that our lives have become unmanageable, and when you can do that and actually have no reservations about your recovery, you're on your way. You're on a good start.
But it's always best to have help
Yes.
and to ask for it. when-
Yes, and that support, and that the fellowship of NA, they tell you, come into these rooms, and we will love you until you can love yourself. And then they tell you, no matter what or who you are or what color you are, keep coming back, and it's just such a welcoming a fellowship to be a part of.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. And I really thank you for being so open and honest with our audience. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Ms. Cheryl.
And we'll be back in just a moment with Susie, and I have to look up her last name. Susie Santo with Business